everyone, this is Gayle. Welcome to my hashtag Be Bodacious channel, where we are all about not letting life get in the way of living. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please do subscribe to follow my videos, and don't forget to give me a like on this video premiere because that really helped. Tonight we are doing a service dog Q&A as a premiere. Now I'm still going to be in the chat room talking to you all and answering questions. So do stick around and make sure you drop your questions in the chat. And if you're coming by after the premiere, do leave your comments down below. So I've got a bunch that we didn't get to go through last time, so I'm going to tackle these today. Let's get started. First off, the person says that they have seen Labrador Retrievers, Golden Retrievers, and German Shepherds often used as service dogs. It makes me wonder, is there any certain breed? And no, there's not. It's all about what the handler needs, and that is what drives the size and type of service dog. For example, someone who's a senior citizen and they're living in a small apartment, they're probably not going to want a Great Dane as a service dog. So they may be even looking at Chihuahuas or some of the smaller dogs. But it's all about what they need. If they're in a wheelchair and need help pulling it, then they're not going to have a Chihuahua. They're going to need a larger dog that can assist with that. So any dog can be a service dog, and that it does have to be task trained, and there are some personalities that are better for certain tasks than others, but what drives it the most is what does the handler need. So any dog, any breed, any size can be a service dog. Okay, next up. What do the different outfits mean? I see service dogs wearing lots of things. What does it mean? So, okay, I'm super glad that you asked this. What you most frequently see are vests or capes. Pipsie wears a harness, and you'll see that. So the reason behind the different things is, again, it's going back to what the handler needs. For me, Pipsie is my mobility and medical alert service dog who also does medical response. So I need a handle on him, something that I can use to grab him with in case I stumble or start to fall, or if I need him to balance, counterbalance, things like that. That's all mobility work, so he's going to be in a harness. The other types of things that you see, the capes or the vests, that typically is the preference of the handler, but can be based on the handler's needs. Vests, for example, are more likely to have pockets on them than capes are. And when I had a service dog that, before I needed mobility work, that had a vest, I put my medications in that vest. So my epinephrine, my inhaler, my medicines that I need to stop allergy attacks because I have an anaphylactic reaction to some foods. Those were all on him. So everybody I knew that if I had a problem, go to my dog and get the medicines, and he would allow that, no problems there. So my needs drive what my dogs have worn. Same thing with other handlers, and there is some preference. Some people just really like using a cape, or some people really like using a vest, and that's fine. None of that is required by the ADA, though. I want to make sure you hear that, because the ADA does not require any of this to be on a dog. Okay, it's just preference and needs. So, next question in the stack. Okay, I was barked at in a store. Staff said that it was a service dog and there was nothing they can do. The dog kept barking and eventually pooped in the floor, and then the staff got the dog and got the owner, and I saw them being escorted out. Is that okay? All right, so anytime you have a service dog that's creating a disturbance, that service dog handler can be asked to leave. So a disturbance would be continually barking when it's not an alert, pooping in the floor, or constantly whining and some other things. Now, this is different from alert behavior, okay? If something is wrong, the dog may be trained to bark continually. You indicate that you yourself were being barked at by the service dog, and that's not okay. And it can be a sign of a fake service dog. So you've got a few different things that it could be, but regardless, service dog, fake service dog, just somebody's pet, if they're creating a disturbance, they can be asked to leave. And yes, sometimes that does involve getting security in. So yes, that is okay. Next one. This is another great question. How do I know if a service dog is legitimate if we can't ask for papers? Okay, so under the ADA, there are no certification, no papers, nothing like that is recognized by the ADA. They just don't. So the two questions that you are allowed to ask if you see someone that's got a dog and say they're bringing it into your store, you are allowed to say, is that a service dog required because of a disability? And what work or task has the dog been trained to do? So the handler should be able to answer that. Boom. Pipsie is a mobility and medical alert service dog. That answers your questions. There you go. So that's how you can tell if it is a legitimate service dog or not. If somebody says, well, he makes me feel better. Okay, what task is he trained to provide? He just makes me feel better. Okay, what task? And so if they can't come up with a task, then you may not be dealing with a legitimate trained service dog under the ADA. On training, though, it is okay for someone to self-owner train their service dog with or without the use of trainers, or for it to be a program dog. So any of that training is all right, but they still need to be able to answer those two questions, and you can find out about that at the ADA.gov website. ADA.gov. It's the Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay, next great question. How do I know if a service dog is alerting? My girlfriend has one, and I don't want to mess this up. Good for you for caring so much about your girlfriend that you want to investigate and find things out. Talk to your girlfriend, find out, ask her what kind of behavior the dog exhibits when he alerts or she alerts, because there are different kinds of alerts. Mine will start out, he'll give me a fixed stare, he'll start licking my hand, then he'll jump up in my lap. If I go unconscious, he's going to bark his head off. So there's a big difference, and other people have a big difference too. Some dogs, all they'll do to alert is come up and start licking you, and that's fine. All of those are valid responses. So to find out what a specific service dog does to alert, you're best off asking your girlfriend, and good luck. I hope things go well. That is super exciting. Big props to you for asking and wanting to do this for her. So, yay. Okay, the next one. What does it mean if a service dog is walking in a store by itself? Oh boy, this is a biggie. If you see a service dog walking in a store or anywhere by itself, and it is clearly labeled as a service dog and it's got the markings on it, then there's a problem. So you need to see if the service dog can take you to its handler. So whether you say, take me to mom or dad, take me to your owner, what's wrong, show me, try to get that service dog to take you, because there's a problem and the service dog is usually looking for help. And here's the thing, that service dog may be going to a lot of people before it gets a good response, but There's some kind of problem there. So do what you can to help and find out why that service dog is walking by itself and where the handler is, okay? Hugely important. All right. Do churches have to let service dogs in? No, they don't. I actually found this out several years ago that churches and church organizations and church agencies, anything that has anything to do with religion, we have a separation of church and state here in the U.S. And all of these questions, by the way, these are all based on my experience in the U.S., all right? So in the U.S., the Americans with Disabilities Act allows for churches not to have to let service dogs in. So any kind of service dog and emotional support animals, which aren't service dogs, but sometimes people get them confused with one. Yeah, they don't have to let those in. Now, I would hope that a church would. So talk with the pastor and give them some information. Hey, look, I've got a medical alert service dog here. I may need him at church. I've got an allergy alert dog. I need the dog at church dinners, and talk to them and help them understand that you need the dog. I don't know of but maybe once or twice where someone was not allowed in a church function with their service dog, but it does occasionally happen, and that is allowable within the law. So morally, I don't know, legally, yeah, because I had to call the Americans with Disabilities Act hotline, the Department of Justice hotline, and ask that even myself. So, which actually brings me to the next question that's it. And that is, I tried attending a Christian retreat with my service dog and was told no, even though the hotel allowed it. Did they have to let me in or not? Really, on that, it is a super great question. As I just answered, I found out that church events happening on church property don't have to let you in. But if you're at a hotel and the hotel is secular, then they would fall under the American with Disabilities Act's protections, and you definitely could let your dog, in there, as long as they're not a religious affiliated hotel. But I don't know if the organizers have to let you into their event. So on that, I would suggest you call the Department of Justice helpline and just see what they say. That's what this kind of thing is what they're there for, to answer questions, and they can really provide the technical assistance that will help you make an informed decision. I'll say that. So yeah, give them a call. All right, next up, my girlfriend's mom has an ESA service dog that she takes everywhere. He's not behaved well and bit me, only on my shoe, but still. Do places have to let her in? And then he goes on to say that he's bothered by the behavior, which I get you. That totally makes sense to me. But let me start. There's a couple of things going on here in your question, okay? One is you say ESA, and then you say service dog. So an ESA is an emotional support animal. They're actually not a service dog. In fact, ADA.gov, if you pull up the law on their website, it specifically says that emotional support animals are not service dogs. Ideally, she shouldn't be taking the emotional support dog with her everywhere, but only in pet-friendly locations or in locations that allow pets and welcome ESAs. Legally, everybody has to accept a service dog, unless you're going in like the burn unit of a hospital or something like that. Hospitals have to allow food places, restaurants, grocery stores, etc. all have to allow service dogs. ESAs, not so. Now, it may be different in some states. I know like in my state and federally. So you've got that going on. So do places have to let her in? If it's a service dog, yes. If it's an ESA, no, not generally. But then you say her behavior or the dog's behavior, and that you yourself have been bitten by the dog, only on your shoe, you say, but still. The behavior is an issue on many, many levels. Even if this is a service dog and not the ESA, then that's not behavior of a service dog. You don't ever want to see that at all or even hear about it. But that can get you kicked out of restaurants and hotels because you don't want the dog creating a disturbance. And if a dog is creating a disturbance, as we talked about, or if you are bitten by a dog, then no, that's not behavior, and so certainly you can be asked to leave and stuff. How you're going to handle it with your friend's mom, I don't know. You're going to have to really have some conversations together there. But as far as going places, they don't have to allow that. Okay. All right. Next up. Okay. I don't like dogs, so I told my future mother-in-law that I was allergic. My fiance and I are in the middle of wedding planning. I asked her not to bring the dog, but she wants to bring her service dog anyway to the rehearsal and the wedding and the reception. I don't like dogs. I don't want to be around a service dog. How do I stop my future mother-in-law from ruining my wedding? Oh boy. Your mother-in-law is allowed to take the service dog most places that people can go. You really need to have a conversation with your future bride and get on the same page as this. If the woman has a service dog, she needs the service dog, okay? Technically, churches, they don't have to follow, there's separation of church and state, so they don't have to follow the protections with the ADA. They don't have to let the service dog in. Restaurants do. Your wedding reception might, depending on where it's being held, and if it's a church, if it's not a church. If it's a secular building, then probably they're going to have to allow it. But here's the thing. Much, much bigger than how you can stop the dog from coming to the rehearsal, the wedding, and the reception is you need to be on the same page as your fiance. Because this is, your mother-in-law and the service dog, they're not going to go away, all right? So you're going to have to get together on the same page and get that worked out. And that's really what it's going to come down to. So can you stop her from bringing the dog to the rehearsal and the reception? Maybe. Can you stop her? Probably not. Can you stop her from going to the wedding? Maybe. Because of the religious factor there, if it's a religious wedding, okay? So, yeah. I'm kind of at a loss with this one. Because she's going to be your mother-in-law, and because you don't like dogs, you're going to have some conversations there. Now, I will say that being allergic or not liking dogs, that's not reasons not to allow a service dog, okay? A lot of people say that they're allergic to dogs. I know that a lot of people say they're allergic who is not, and I'm not getting into that argument, but it sounds like you've already started this by lying to your future mother-in-law by telling her that you are allergic. So yeah, definitely have some conversations there, but be ready at the end of the day to accept your mother-in-law's service dog, because if she has a service dog, then she needs it. Okay. All right. So let me know how that works out. Okay, next up. Do service dogs have to wear a vest? Someone came into my job and said no, their service dog didn't have to wear anything, but my manager asked them to leave because he didn't think they were a real service dog. Okay. ADA, we talked about a few minutes ago, does not require service dogs to have any kind of special vest, collar, marking, special leash, or anything. So yes, they usually can come into places. It's my understanding that they still have the same rights to go everywhere that people can go, no matter how they're dressed. What makes a service dog is not the outfit, it's the need and the training. So on your job, they can ask the big two questions. Is this a service dog required because of a disability, and what work or task have they been trained to do? If they don't have the answers that indicate the dog has had training, then you may be able to ask them to leave. If they tell you, like for example, if I say yes, my dog's required by a disability, he is a mobility and medical alert service dog, that's all I have to tell you. And if it is obvious that the person has a disability, you can't ask. If I go in and I've got my leg brace on and I am leaning up against my service dog for balance, then you know I have a physical issue and it's obvious. So you can't ask because, there's common sense that comes into play here. So, yeah. I think that your manager may need to check with the higher ups and see what their official policy is, because managers don't often listen to people who are lesser on the hierarchy than they are. But yeah, he probably would have been in the wrong. So, but double check that, okay? And I'm saying double check it because, like I said, I've been a handler since 2006, but I don't have any legal background, okay? I've just had to make a lot of calls to the Department of Justice asking lots of questions. And they have upheld a problem that I had at the National Institutes of Health. So I'm basing all of my answers on that. All right. This next one. I saw a sign in a store that said only certified dogs that have been trained are allowed in the store. I've never heard of this before. What is a certified dog that's been trained? So, all right, task trained service dogs. Those are the ones that are service dogs. Anything else is not task trained, is not a service dog. There is no certification that's recognized by the Department of Justice. Okay. You can owner train your service dogs with or without a trainer. You can get them from a program, but there's no, and they may be certified in one sense by having completed the program, but they're not a certified service dog. A program can just say this dog has completed the training that we require and is capable of doing the task. So congratulations, here's an ID. But as far as the law, there is no certification that's recognized. I think probably what's going on here is probably the store is trying to keep out dogs that are not service dogs. But as far as a certification, there's just not one. Okay. If service dogs are expensive, how do people afford them? That's a really good question. Yeah, service dogs can be very expensive. I've seen them. I've been quoted $25,000 and up, and I've been quoted, $7,000 from the organization I got mine from, and everything in between. So, affording them usually relies on some type of fundraising. usually lots of fundraising. And then there's some monthly expenses because you've always got food, heartworm, flea and tick, that basic stuff that you have to do for every dog. You still got to do that for service dogs. So that can be an ongoing challenge too. And insurance, even though the dog is medical equipment, insurance usually doesn't cover it. Health flex plans will. And if you itemize on your taxes, you may be able to itemize him or her as a medical expense. But it can be very difficult, especially when you are trying to get a service dog to raise the money. But basically, that's how people afford them, through fundraising. There's usually not a grant that will help. Sometimes in some states, if a child is on Medicaid and if they're a child, it's my understanding that some states will allow a small amount toward a service dog, but that's all I know. You're going to have to check with your own state to see if that's the case and there's any kind of help from Medicaid if you know a child that's on Medicaid that needs one. But yeah, that's fundraising. Lots and lots of fundraising. So if you know somebody that's having to do a GoFundMe and they're trying to raise money for a service dog, please consider pitching in a buck or two. Okay, how do you spot a fake service dog? I wish that fake service dogs had to wear a vest that says, "I'm a faker," emblazed on it. That would make life so much easier, but of course that's not ever going to happen. So you can look at the answers to the two big questions. Is that a service dog required because of a disability? And what work or task has it been trained to do? Now, if the person says, well, he just helps me feel better, or he just lowers my blood pressure just by being there, then it's not task trained. But if the person says he retrieves dropped items, he lowers my heart rate when I'm having a high heart rate episode, he helps he's been trained to stop my panic attacks, seeing eye dog, hearing alert dog, things like that, then you're not dealing with a faker. So as far as behavior, you may have a fake service dog situation where the dog is misbehaving, clearly, but you don't really know for sure if it's a fake service dog or if it's just a service dog that's not been trained enough. So it can be kind of hard to spot. Generally, growling, snapping, barking, guarding, pooping in the floor, that defecation, we've had that, just came up a few minutes ago. Those are generally signs that you probably are dealing with a faker, just not always. But even if, here's the big thing, even if a dog is a legitimate service dog and is exhibiting those behaviors that make it where it's a disturbance, then the handler can be asked to leave. I'm sorry, let me clarify that just a little bit. The handler can be asked to remove the dog from the premises, but be permitted to come back into the store and shop or restaurant and eat, without the service dog. So the service dog can be removed, all right? So, yeah, that's usually where it is on the fake service dogs. Okay, how do you know if a service dog training place is good? Check for reviews, ask for references, talk to your friends, talk to people who have graduated and have a dog from that program or trainer. Those are really the ways that you know if a service dog is good. If you see a handler out with a service dog and you like the service dog, the behavior fits and whatnot, it is okay to go ask the handler. Just say, hey, look, I have a quick question about your service dog. I really, I need one, or my family, my friend, etc. needs one. May I ask where you got yours? I noticed that it's super well behaved. I get asked that all the time. And it is okay to ask that, so don't hesitate. Okay, now they may not answer you, they may be in a hurry, etc., but it is okay to ask. So that's one way you can talk to your doctor, find out if they know about any kind of service dog trainer or program, and get references there too. So, yeah, and certainly check online reviews. All right. Why do you need a service dog? And this person is asking specifically about me and why I personally need a service dog. Um, and and I need Pipsy because I have problems with walking. I suddenly had a problem with a damaged nerve a few years ago, and it came on fast. Um, and I've literally went from Friday to Monday with my leg from working fine to my foot just hanging there. So I had a service dog at the time, my first dog, and he was a huge help, but he wasn't trained to help with mobility. So when he passed away, I started looking and found the organization that trained Pipsy, did a fabulous job there. So with me, it's a combination of needing the mobility help from Pipsy. Also, I am a diabetic, and he alerts to my blood sugar lows. Also, he does some asthma response and some allergy response in that he can go get my inhaler, epinephrine, etc., and he helps that way. He also retrieves dropped items because when I'm having, some days are better than others, okay, and with the back and leg issue, if I drop something, I can't always pick it up, especially if it's some like a prescription bottle that has rolled into the corner or underneath the table. So he can get down there and get that for me. So that's a little bit about what he does and why I have the service dog. There is more if you want to check out my shorts. I have a service dog shorts, and that's got more about why I need him and what he does. And it's just a bunch of little shorts, so they're all under a minute. So check those out. But yeah, that's why. Last on but not least, I'm kind of okay. I've got about 3 questions left, so I'll answer these for you. Why don't service dogs need professional training? And there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of people just prefer to train their own dog. You know, maybe they've got knowledge or experience in that already, and they want to be able to utilize their skills in training their own service dog. Cost can come into play if you have an owner training their own service dog. For the owner to do it, it's generally less expensive than getting it from a program. Um, there, there's probably going to be a wait at a program, and you may not have as long of a wait if you opt to train your own dog. Also, you know, you may have someone who has a friend or a relative that's a dog trainer that can train the dog, or they just maybe a dog trainer is closer to them than going across the country and getting a dog from a program. So there are tons of reasons why you don't have to have a dog professionally trained. They still have to be task trained to help, okay? Still have to be task trained. It just doesn't have to be professional. Next up, why isn't there some kind of national registry to stop fake service dogs? They'd game it. They would game it. Also, you know, they can't make you give up your personal medical information. And if you were to have to register your service dog somewhere, then you would be giving up your medical information. It would be a requirement that you do so, and you can't make somebody do that. Plus, they would game it. There's all kinds of places online where you can register your service dog for $60, and none of those are valid. None of those are recognized. People who do that, they're just throwing their money away. So yeah, there's tons of reasons like that. Okay. Next up, my little sister has autism. I think a service dog would keep her from running away. My mom and I talked about this over winter break, and my stepfather agreed, and my mother agreed. But my stepfather said we could just go to get one from the pound and have it trained. He says it's going to be cheaper and faster to have it trained than to get it from a nonprofit. How do I convince him that this isn't true? Well, first of all, congratulations for being forward thinking enough to care about your little sister enough to suggest a service dog, because it can be helpful to keep people who have autism from walking away or running away. And I'm glad that you and your mom and stepfather talked about it over winter break. That was really, really cool. Getting one from the pound is a little iffy. If you go to a nonprofit organization or just through a service dog training program, or from a private trainer that works with service dogs a lot, then they have enough dogs that they have a lineage, so they know what kind of temperament this dog's mother, father, grand dogs, and on and so on, siblings and whatnot, what kind of temperament they have. And a service dog has to have a temperament that is good around people, that's not reactive, that just isn't really nervous, in order to be an effective service dog. So you do have some advantages. When you go to a pound to get a service dog, you have some pretty big disadvantages in that service dogs have tests that they have to be able to pass at certain times as they age, okay? So one of the first tests that they do determines if there's a possibility that the service dog has the temperament to enter service dog training, whether that's from private individual, private trainer, program, nonprofit, for-profit, whatever. Does the dog have the temperament? That's the first thing on the list. The other thing is how young or how old is the dog? What's the age? Because little puppies are more amenable to training than older dog. You can still teach old dogs new tricks. It's just going to be a lot harder and take a lot longer. So you've got that to factor in. As far as temperament, you don't know what the parents and siblings and grand dogs of this puppy were like, okay? And just because he or she passes the original temperament test doesn't mean that they're gonna work as a service dog. You have at least a 50% washout rate when it comes to service dogs that are chosen by the owner rather than coming through the program. You also have the situation where programs will back their service dogs. So if it washes, they'll back that dog and give you a successor dog. If you go through a program and your dog, if you go through a private trainer, go to the pound, etc., then if that dog washes, you're going to have to go back to another trainer, or back to the trainer, or back to a pound or to a program, because if it washes, that's on you. So you do have that. As far as waiting, as far as it being faster to go to the pound and have the dog trained, no. It's really usually not going to be faster, and that's because the service dog needs to grow. You want to get a young dog that's trainable, but the dog has to train, it has to grow up, the maturity has to develop. And honestly, that's why a lot of service dog programs have a wait list. It's not just that you're waiting for a spot to open up. You're waiting for a dog to be selected for the needs that you have. You're waiting for the dog to be trained, and you're waiting for the dog to grow up. So if you go to the pound and pick out a puppy, you're waiting for the dog to be trained, and you're waiting for the dog to grow up. So you still are going to have a good year to 2 years, around 18 months on average, before the dog has the maturity to be a service dog. So as far as time, it may not be. As far as it being cheaper, that may or may not be the case. My service dog, Pipsy, was $7K. He's from a great program, and it was going to cost, or he is now $7K from that program. We paid $5K. Everything goes up, okay? The $5K that I was quoted was the same price that some of the other trainers had quoted me, because you're not just going to one class or two, you were going through these series of classes. And so it was not going to be one bit cheaper for me to get him trained locally versus going halfway across the country to get my service dog. Time was going to be the same. Cost was going to be the same. So I'm like, why not go with the program? And that's what we did, and I've been really happy. Is that the case for everyone? No, because we're all different. But I would suggest having the conversation, trying to research some of the places near you that do training, find out exactly what they're going to charge for the different courses, okay? Because you're going to have to go through, a potty training class, puppy manners, more advanced training on behavior, and then after you do those, then you're going to get into the service dog classes for what you need. That may be a class, it may be private training, it may be just 2 or 3 dogs. All of that impacts the total cost for your dog, and you've got the gas of running back and forth, and all the gear that you have to buy where it's provided from a program versus paying for yourself. Do some research on all the costs and just lay it out, and see which way it's cheaper for you to go. Generally, if you go through a program that's got a $25,000 price tag, then that may not be the same price, but it depends on where you're going to have to go for training, gas, and a lot of factors. So look at everything, sit down, have that discussion, and then you're going to make an informed decision no matter which way you go, and you're going to make the best decision possible to benefit your sister, and I think that's awesome. So, all right, so those are the questions that I have for this show. You all go ahead, drop me your comments down below or over in the chat, and I'll be looking for those and answer them. So thanks for watching. We're always, #always, be bodacious. Don't let life get in the way of living. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so, and please give us a like on the video. It really does help. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.